And we're live. Thanks everybody for joining us for this new webinar. We've been doing a bunch of webinars at Mix with the Masters since March 2020. And a bunch of you guys have been joining, but today is a very special day because we have an amazing guest and we're very honored to welcome musician and composer, producer, songwriter, Finneas is here with us today. Hi, Finneas. Thanks for joining us.
Hey there. Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here. I really appreciate you guys allowing me to be on this platform. I don't feel like a mixer or a master of mixing, so I appreciate you guys extending the invitation. I'm monitoring this chat, and I think you guys have probably better questions than I could just spiel on my own. So I'm gonna pay really close attention to it and try to answer as many questions as I can. And then, probably answering those questions are gonna, we'll run off on some tangents. So I saw one that I thought was good. It says, this is from Leah. Hey, Finn, it's Leah. Just wanted to ask for some advice. With producing, I've been trying to get into it, but can't seem to figure it out. The reason I wanted to start there is that's like fabulously broad. And we'll get into like nerdy esoterica about vocal chains and stuff in a bit. But in terms of producing, if you're a person that has always wanted to like record, produce music on your own, and you haven't gotten into it, I get it. It's like learning a language or any form of software, art form, hardware. It's complicated. So I think my main advice would be just start really simple, be patient with it, and listen to, like, as you like get better and better at producing, like listen to the music you've always loved more, and you'll start to hear like the individual things about those tracks that make you love them. So that'd be, my main advice. The other thing I think that's really important to mention in terms of like starting out is like you're going to be bad. Almost definitely you're going to be bad. And I was really bad at first. And I think it's like sometimes when you're bad at something, you think like, I'll never be good at this, or like, I don't know what I'm doing. But like for some reason, like, especially in music production, like being bad is like part of the process. Like it's how you get good. It's like you start out really bad. So that's my kind of overview in terms of that. And producing music is really fun, and eventually it'll like kind of only be fun. So just stick with it if you want to do it. Okay, I saw the almost spelled Daniel Tiffy says my snare sucks. Most snares suck, I think. I think finding the perfect kick and the perfect snare for a song is like 75% of producing. A lot of what I do in terms of my snare sounds is like layering. Very rarely is it like one sample on a beat for a snare. Sometimes it's like a kick layer to give the snare some punch. Oftentimes it's like 3 or 4 different samples layered on top of each other, usually something pretty bright turned pretty low in the mix, something kind of thumpy. Probably like that's actually technically like the fader that is the highest, but it's just got that kind of like smack to it. And then my 2 snares and my 4 snares are almost always different. Again, to really belabor this a little bit, like 2 and 4 snares is like if a bar is like boom, clap, boom, clap. Like I want that second clap to sound accentuated, like a slightly different accent than the first one. Sometimes I'll put like, an actual clap sample or a flam sample on the second snare. And I think to me it's like it's always like about trying to keep the ear engaged. If you have like an amazing live drummer in a studio and they're recording amazing live drums for your album, they're going to take care of that for you. They're going to be human, and they're going to play, each different hit of the snare is going to have a little bit of a different intention behind it, and you're not afforded that luxury if you're like repeating the same snare sample over and over. So I usually try to keep it fluid. Elizabeth Chu, I've seen in the comments a lot. Finneas, it's 4 a.m. right now in Melbourne, and I would like to know what keeps you going during hard times, and if the work overload ever feels too much. You're up very early in Melbourne. Thanks for tuning into this. Yeah, the workload totally feels like too much sometimes, and I get really stressed out, and I like go sit in the hammock and I like listen to music, and I feel uninspired. And I find the best way to combat that is to just do a little bit of work. I'm one of those people that like if I start something, it's hard for me to like pull away from it. So sometimes if I'm like, I'll just do like 10 minutes of work, then I do like about an hour of work. When otherwise I would have been like, it's too much time. I don't have time today. So the short answer is, yeah, it's totally overwhelming and stressful. The longer I have spent producing, the more I've come to really understand the importance of like just not like being hard on yourself when you don't have a good idea. Like you'll have good ideas later. You can just chill out about them. You don't have to always be making a great song. So I try to be easy on myself, but I'm not always great at that. But yeah, the workload is too much. And in terms of like working during hard times, I don't really. I focus on other parts of my life, and I work during the easier times. Rihanna, hi. First, I just wanted to say that your music has helped me a lot. Also, what's your favorite and the most important bit of the production? Vocal. Always the vocal. Unless I'm producing something instrumental, but always the vocal. I saw a question earlier from a username that I don't remember right now, and I'd have to scroll way back up in the comments to find it. But I saw a comment about like, how do you get your sub bass like so forward in the mix and so loud? And the real truth to that is the two things that are loud in my mixes are sub bass and vocals. And it's because they don't conflict with each other. Especially Billy's voice doesn't have like any sub. She's got like almost nothing below like 150 hertz at all. So the vocal and the sub can just like sit like that. And in terms of like synths, guitars, high-end drums, like those conflict with the vocal more directly. And my goal is always to leave as much room as possible for the vocal. Hi, Finn. This is Fernanda Zarate. Hi, Finn. Does there have to be a certain vibe to one album? Because I've heard that having different genres in one album is messy. What's your opinion on that? No, it doesn't have to be one vibe. I think it's nice for albums to feel cohesive when you listen to them. I don't want to like build a kind of a world for people to enter into with an album and then just like make a song that feels like a totally different artist. If that makes sense. Like sometimes like you can like one artist and you can like another artist, and if you're like listening to one artist and then suddenly the other artist comes on, you're like, oh, this isn't the mood. So yeah, I think it's like a little bit more like, yeah, it can have different vibes for sure, but I think you still have to do it in an artful way. That's the main thing. I see a lot of like vocal chain ha 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 comments. Miriam, Nahuel, a lot of people talking about vocal chain. My vocal chain is so simple. Up until so recently, it was like literally like a TLM 103 mic, like straight into an Apollo interface, and then like stock Logic compression, like shelf EQ, some Valhalla verb sometimes. That was like it. And then now it's like a little bit more intense because I got rich and so I can afford nice mics and stuff. So now it's a Telefunken 251 for Billy, Chandler Red for me. Billy's mic I run through a 5-211 Neve preamp and then straight into the board. And then my mic, Chandler, I'll run through a CL, 1B, one of those big blue compressor units. That's everybody. But that's it. Chris, Virginia, which is what I'm assuming VA is. Billie is known to sing very quietly. Does her voice present unique challenges and opportunities in production? Yeah, it does. I have to gain her voice higher than you have to gain anyone else's voice for you to hear it at all. And then, if she then gets loud, it's like you have to ride the gain a little bit. I don't compress her voice like crazy. I do sometimes for like as a very like purposeful effect, but I don't always do it. I think to me the delicacy of her voice is like what's so magical about it, and it's why you can like feel every lyric she says. But yeah, in terms of recording it, it's like it's a unique challenge, but it's more of a challenge live, to be honest, because her crowds are so loud that I think this our front of house just like wants to kill himself because she's like singing like this and the crowd's just like screaming. So that's more of a challenge. Kira, what instrumentation and production would you say clashes with Billie's voice? I have found just like bright stuff clashes with her voice. Like almost every piano sound that's ever been in our records is like very muffled and cloudy to leave room for Billie's voice. Cymbals, like drum cymbals, clash with her voice. There's not a lot of guitar in our stuff that clashes with her voice. We also do a lot of like vocal harmony layering in our stuff. So a lot of the time the whole song is like 50% vocal. Good question. Uriel asks, what is your mixing process for voices and which plugins do you choose? So my mixing process is like a little bit like bizarre. Not to toot my own horn here, but my mixes are really good. And the reason I say that is because we like our records are still mixed by someone else. Our Billie's album and actually my solo stuff too. They're mixed by a guy named Rob Kanelski. I've worked with Serban, who's amazing, Manny American, who's amazing. I work with a guy named Justin Herget a lot. He was sort of studying with like or assistant to Tony Maserati for a long time. They're all great. But what I send these guys is like 98% of the way there. And I feel comfortable saying that because I hear a lot of other mixes from other producers that then get sent to artists. And yeah, I just really care about the mix of a song. And so I very rarely do I like tell a mixer that they have to fix anything. I just want them to like massage it and, reference it against stuff. And obviously like I'm only mixing it in my headphones and in my room. So like, I want it to sound good everywhere. I think that's a big part of a great mixer. Plugin wise, my secret sauce in terms of like faux mastering, in terms of like, that final kind of glue is this the TR Suite 5 by IK Multimedia. It's amazing plugin that also happens to like sometimes just like destroy Logic Pro, like glitch out. But Jeffrey Chang, how did you learn to mix and get that 98% self-taught? I didn't learn how to mix. I just kept doing it all the time. And I just know how I want things to sound. And I just am obsessive. And, I don't really believe there's like any like, Bible you have to follow in the creative space because you're making different choices. Like the cardinal sin to me that people make is they bring in a song and they like tell the mixer that they want the song to sound like a fucking Portugal the Man record, and the stems for the song are like completely different than a Portugal the Man record, and like it's just a waste of your time. Like unless you literally reproduced Feel It Still, like your song isn't going to sound like Feel It Still. So to that extent, just mix the song that you produced. Like don't try to mix Partition by Beyonce. Like you're never going to have a mix that sounds that good. I think that's like the greatest mix of all time. Hello, Finneas. Since you do a majority of your work not inside a studio, do you think mixing is going to be shifting away from a studio setting, especially now with COVID? I suppose so. It depends on where mixers work, right? Like, I'm assuming most mixers have like a place they work in their house. Our guy Rob did Billy's whole album in his house, but now he has like a little studio space. I think mainly because he has a baby and he doesn't want to have like, you know, a baby screaming in the background of his, you know, mixes. But you know, I think mixing is going to happen wherever mixers work best. I think mixing is like the most mathematical, physics based part of the music creation process, and so I think there's always going to be, no matter how many like bedroom producers there are always going to be great mixers, because they make songs sound better. What is this? Danny Humming says, Finneas, how did your engineers miss 2 comp glitches in You're the Scars, On My Skin, You're the Past, I Don't Want to Erase? Can I comp it next time? And he concludes his email. You cocky motherfucker. They didn't miss anything. I purposefully comped that vocal super weird and left chops in. Just thought it was rhythmic and cool. A lot of people put a lot of blame and onus on like mixers for like shit that was actually just a creative choice. And like I make fairly reckless creative choices. I don't know if you guys remember, but like the whole internet exploded when that Zanny song came out, because I like just destroyed the vocal with sidechain compression from a sub bass. And that what is his name? He's super nice. That like English Ian Shepherd, like the mastering engineer, like guy on YouTube, and he did this whole analysis breakdown. Like people analyze stuff and I'm just like, dude, I just liked it. I just thought it sounded awesome and I put it in that way. Like Rob Kinelski did not destroy this mix. Estimar, do you mix as you go? Yes, I mix the entire time I'm working. I never wait till the last minute to mix. And the reason for that is if my shit isn't mixed well, I won't know if I should add stuff or if I'm done. People just throwing a bunch of stuff in and not worrying about the mix and then like going through, like what a laborious process. And sometimes you just have to like mute whole things. If I'm mixing as I go, if the vocals sound perfect against the drums, I'm like, all right, I know what space is left. I know where to put this bass. If the bass sounds great, I'm like, okay, there's some room for some textural synthesizers, and I add those in, and I'm like, okay, great. I think we're there. And if I haven't done that, I don't know. Okay, Aaron, or hey, Finneas, any thoughts about creating a course for production or mixing? I'm at risk of eating my words if I ever do like a masterclass series or something, because I'm self-taught and I like learn things in a way that I worry I would never have been taught. I don't have much desire to create a course because I think people will make better choices if they figure stuff out for themselves. Not that you shouldn't watch YouTube videos that teach you how to like quantize stuff. I'm just saying that like trying something and then trying something else and just going like, which one do I like better, is going to make you more of an artist than like hearing what Steve Albini thinks you should do. Thank you guys for asking such engaged, good questions, by the way. Theodore Storm Christensen, how conscious are you about having the work you do conform to your signature sound? For instance, have you ever scrapped a track you otherwise liked because it wasn't you? I don't scrap them. I just give them to other artists. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There, when I was like a teenager, I would like take my songs to producers, and they'd be like, "Yeah, like you got to find a sound, man." And I was like, "I think I'm just like a producer, maybe, and like I just work with everybody." I think if I have a sound as a solo artist, it's like it's definitely changing all the time, but it's probably like centered around like me sitting at an instrument, like playing guitar, or playing piano. Um, that's sort of like my stuff as of late feels a little bit more like old school than maybe like a bury a friend production might, I guess, even in the songwriting. uh, 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 uh. Jorge, I'm always good into creating 8-bar loops that sound amazing, but when it comes to adding new parts and variation, I struggle. Any advice? I could give you advice on that, but also like there's like huge songs that like go multi-platinum that are just like 8-bar loops that just sound like awesome. So maybe you're doing the right thing. Questions are flowing in. Um, let's see. Favorite headphones. Talked about this a fair amount. These are my favorite headphones by like a million miles. These Audio Technica. I always forget like the number. ATH M50X. Best headphones in the world. Like absolutely definitively. Like there are no better headphones than these. Just saw a question and then it went away. It's torturous. Elizabeth Chu again. Hey, Finneas, I know that you wrote Bury a Friend with Billy in 2 days on your 21st birthday. I was wondering about how you start writing a song and where the ideas come from. Well, every song is different. I can talk about that song because that one exists. That song, we were on tour in the Midwest, and we had played a show in Detroit, and then we had a show in Chicago. We were playing Lollapalooza like the next weekend, and it didn't at the time make sense to just fly home instead of staying. And so we were like, let's just book a studio in Chicago. And so we were just like in this little room, and I think they were filming like the show Empire in like the room next door to us, which was hilarious. But we were just in this little room, and I love shuffle beats. Howlin' for You by the Black Keys is a shuffle beat. Black Skinhead by Kanye West is a shuffle beat. It's that like and so I started making like a very creepy shuffle beat. And then we wrote that hook, and I was like, this is cool. And then we started writing the verses, and I was like, this is cool. And we got like halfway through the song. We got all the way through like the first verse, first pre-chorus. And then we went and played Lollapalooza. And then like a couple months later, we were back in LA and we wrote the rest. And Billy had gone to a dentist office that day to get her like Invisalign attachments like filed down. And so we had this like sound. It sounded awesome. And we put that in the song. So that was the story of that song. And the song structurally is very odd. There's like, I think of it as like having basically like two bridges or like a second verse, different version or something. And at one point we like overthought it. We were like, we should take out the bridge. And to our team's credit, we sent in this version to our team with no bridge. And we were like, we've finally figured it out. And our team was like, where's the bridge? The bridge is great. Put it back in. And I'm glad they told us to, because they were right. Augustin Mesa, hi from Colombia, Finneas. I was wondering what you would like to say to yourself from 5 years ago, something that you think would have had a lot of worth or save you time. I don't know if I would have saved myself any time, to be honest. But I would. I remember just being really worried that I would like never get to have a career in music, and if I'd somehow been able to like go back and tell myself that like eventually I probably would have just been like a happier person, because I was so nervous that I would like not end up getting to live out my dream. Aaron Trimble, asks, who is your team? Like kind of like 4 people. We have 2 managers, Danny and Brandon, who are awesome. And then Justin Lubliner, who is the founder of Darkroom, which is the imprint that Billy is signed to. And then we have an A&R named Sam Reback, who's great. John Janik is part of our squad also. He is the president or overlord of Interscope. He's awesome, but I don't think in this specific case he was on the call. But yeah, those 4 people who had heard the song earlier were like, what about the bridge? And that's the kind of feedback we kind of ask for from them. They're not like telling us to go rewrite whole songs, but we'll send them like, do you like this one better or this one better? And they'll go like, we like that one better. I think it's really important to have people you trust like that. This is just an amusing question. This is Pomac. It's probably pronounced totally differently than that, but I just am amused. Good afternoon, O'Connell. This is Roman from Russia. I just found out about the song Bad Guy. I can't reach you. My address. Homie found out about the song Bad Guy and was like, I have to watch this mixed with the masters. This is going to be crazy. Let's see what else. Cheers from Sweden. This is from Sam Petter. I don't know how to pronounce that last name. You say you mix while you're producing. Do you as well produce while you're writing music, or how often do you start off? Love that question. For the people that are similar to me in this chat, who are like writer, producer, singer, songwriters, yes, I do produce while I'm writing, and I don't do it enough, and I'm starting to do it more because I come from a place of like sitting at a piano and writing a whole song because I didn't know how to produce when I was growing up and I was learning how to write songs. So I have a tendency to still do that. I have a tendency to like sit with a guitar and write a whole song. For some reason, when you do that, recording the song is like pulling all of your teeth out. It's exhausting and painstaking and terrible. And so many of our songs are like that. Let's Fall in Love for the Night is like that. When the Party's Over is like that. I Love You is like that. Listen Before I Go is like that. Die Alone is like that. I Don't Miss You at All is like that. And the couple instances where we were producing while we were writing are like Bad Guy and Bury a Friend and what else was like a great instance of that? My Strange Addiction was like that. And I just think it's like very conducive to a great result. So I would recommend doing it because it can really inform the song. And it can take a lot of guesswork out. Hey, from Belgium, Finneas. This is from Maxime Legrand. Great name. I would like to ask, what are your favorite sample library? Do you use Splice a lot? I love Splice, but I don't use it very much. The 2 things I use are I create samples obsessively all the time, meaning like I'll record a shoe hitting a wall and be like, that's a great sound, and then pitch it up, pitch it down, process it. The other thing I do is I trade samples with friends. So like if I have a bunch of cool samples from my collecting over the years, I'll give them to my closest friends and they'll give me some cool shit that they have. And then the other thing, which we're now in the territory of 3 options, is I use a website called Audio Junk. I don't know. There's like websites where you can buy like audio. You can buy like royalty free, tracks. You pay like several bucks for them, but then you like buy someone's recording of like, a car crash or some shit. And I'll buy those and then I'll turn them into samples. We're at 11:30 right now, and I'm going to take a 1-minute intermission to go and pee, and I'll be right back. So hang tight, everybody. Thanks for your patience. I appreciate it. Baron 2005 says, did you sample your P sound for your next recording? No. Oh, all the comments are sample the P. Clever. I did wash my hands. You guys are really funny. This is cute. Hi from France. This is Jules. When you use real life sounds, do you always use what you recorded with your phone? If so, how do you make them sound great? Yeah, I do a lot of recording, not with my phone though. The voice memos function on iPhone still only lets you record in mono, which is stupid. I mostly record with like I think I have it. I record with stuff like this. This is like a Tascam DR40. They're great. You can like flop the, directions. They sound awesome. So I'll use stuff like that, and I find it sounds much better, and it picks up like a lot of low end. The stuff I use iPhone for is like percussion stuff. The compression on iPhone is like insane. One odd example of a scenario where I use my iPhone. There's a song called Partners in Crime on my solo EP. And I could not get the guitar to sound right. And one day I was playing a guitar in my tent. It was like barely a green room at like Reading Festival. And I was like, this sounds cool with like the crowd like walking around in the background and stuff. And so I just like put a headphone in so I could hear the click track, and then recorded myself playing it on guitar, and then put that playing it on guitar into my iPhone and used like the voice memo audio. And I found that really effective. I just felt like it sounds really good. I feel like Elizabeth Chu is just killing it with the great questions. Hey, Finneas, random question, but what do you usually do in your spare time when you are working on music? Do you normally spend time with Claudia and Peaches? Yeah, I spend time with my girlfriend and my dog a lot. They're great, and they make me feel good. Watch a lot of movies and cook a lot and eat a lot of food. And I just started surfing. Claudia and I have been surfing lately. That's been really fun. If any of you guys are good at surfing, give me some tips and tricks on surfing. Valerie, hey Finneas, what's the biggest regret you have about producing something like a part of a song that was released and later you heard it and wanted to change a sound with another? Here's an interesting example. When I produced Bad Guy, I was like, does like the snare sound good at all? And that's like the, biggest song we've ever made. So it sort of goes to show you like how much you can second guess something. Like, if I made that snare perfect, like if I made that snare like, oh yeah, this is like now I love it. Like, would it have made a difference in terms of that song's success? I don't know. I don't know that it could have made it more successful. It did great. And I've grown to really love it. I think at the time I was just like nervous, I guess. I was like, the snare sounds weird. What techniques do you use to make the chorus vocals sound 10 times more powerful than the verse vocals, even when there is very little change in the singer's delivery? Cool question. Layering, usually. Verse is like, a lead vocal, maybe like a harmony that's like two different vocals on the side. That's like the standard for a verse. And then the chorus is usually like octaves, either like pitch shifted octaves or like me singing octaves. If it's a Billy track, there's like quad lead vocal, like two down the center, one on each side, sometimes like a huge harmony, sometimes like backing vocal harmony parts that just sort of like retain pitch on certain notes. So yeah, like just kind of like the layering of it. Sometimes like weird like layers of distortion. A lot of like impact has to do with like perception, right? Like a vocal can stay the same, but if like an amazing bass comes in, you're gonna feel that like that hit So I think that's really important. Hana, when do you know you can let go of a song? I feel like sometimes it's super easy to get so caught up in details for days on end, only to end up with a version from earlier. Yeah, that happens. Sometimes you make a version, you make a million versions, and then you know, back to the first one. That happened with a song called My Boy on one of Billy's early EP. We made a version like right away, like day one. We were like, cool. And we made like 3 or 4 other completely different productions, and then went back to the first one. But that's how you double know, by the way. If you have the right production, if you do another one and it's wrong, then you're like, well, now I know. Shay, Finneas, my phone is about to die. What is expected to come in the future? I have a new song coming out tomorrow. There you go. And then working on a bunch of new Billy music all the time, and working on some cool stuff for other artists. But I have a song coming out tomorrow. Actually, I don't. It comes out Wednesday. It comes out day after tomorrow. I forgot what day it was. Braden Wright, what plugins do you use for panning effects, and do you simply automate your own panning? I automated a lot. One of the other things I do is like, because I'm from this like digital age, like a lot of what I do, and this might make no sense to some people, is like different pieces of the same track I just put on different faders a lot of the time. And so like one fader I'll just be hard panned, and then it'll like go to the other fader, and like, as opposed to automation, it just is like easier for my brain. If I have like 3 tracks and it's like a left pan, right pan, and center, and I'm just like dragging pieces to those tracks, like it makes more sense to my brain than to like be drawing in like the curves and the straight lines. And so I do that. There's a really great plugin called Pan Man by Sound Toys that has some fun panning effects. I use that sometimes. It could be really cool. Fred, according to you, what is the one element that would stand out if you were only keeping one on the Billy record? Her voice, I guess. If I write metal as well as pop, as well as trap, do you recommend me to become 2 artists, a name for metal and a name for pop trap? Because I feel that metal and pop on one artist is too much. You know, you're like a budding producer. Like you can go work with a great metal band and go work with great pop artists. And if you're an artist, like you get to make whatever you want. You're you know, you're like a doctor who gets to experiment on themselves. So that's where you should start, I think. Camila, hi Finneas, I'm Camila. I want to know if you prefer a simple song, beautifully written with a sensitive melody, or a catchy, good, and very well written and produced song. They don't really exist. Like I think you just kind of, like, every song is just different, and I think of production as like clothes. Like you can dress up a song. Like you could take like the slowest ballad and like make it like a jam, or you could take like a jam and make it a slow ballad. Just depends on what the song needs. Reza, why do you work with Logic? I started on Logic, so I got really good at it. Got really fast at Logic. And Ableton seems like it's great too. And I have a lot of friends who use Ableton, and they're very impressive. And I think Logic and Ableton can do a lot of the same great stuff. To just brag about Logic, this year Logic put out a new drum machine designer and a new quick sampler and a new sampler that are just like unbelievable. They're so good. So, and I don't see myself trying to abandon ship on Logic anytime soon. I really adore Logic, and I just like its GUI, its graphic user interface. I think it's really good. Alex, is there a way to get stems for your songs for remixes? Nope. Lauren, Finneas, answer me please. I'm a sophomore in high school and I decided to take audio production. I'm real confused. Do you have any tips for beginners? Sophomore in high school is pretty young. It's like about when I was like starting to care about production. It's like 14. Again, back to my first statement at the beginning of this. It's like it's okay to be bad for a long time. Keep trying, keep getting better. That's my best advice. I being asked a question over and over that doesn't make any sense to me, so I'm just going to read it and you guys can disseminate. About career, I want to make nicely written music, but my country cares only about dark techno, etc. And it's the only way to be successful. I am techno artist too. Any advice about that? No, I'm not a techno artist. I don't know anything about being a techno artist, but I like techno. Techno's pretty great. And I really like the artist Techno. I think he makes really good music. That being said, good luck, Godspeed. And I think, you know, you saying my country, I don't know. Like, the world's a really big place. I'm assuming there are people in whatever country you live in that don't, you know, their favorite genre is not dark techno. So, you know, Bryce Jones, Papa. Is there a mixing or production technique philosophy you knew before entering the music industry that changed after being in it and meeting professionals? Yes. Before I met professionals, I thought they knew what they were doing. Now I know a bunch of professionals and I'm like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. But that's the point. Nobody knows what they're doing. Everybody is experimenting, and that's the fun part. SD, do you use Logic to record Billy's voice, or do you use Pro Tools? Logic. Baby Arugula, hey, from Silver Lake. How different is the Logic demo of Oceanize from the actual production of Oceanize? I opened it like one time, and I was like, ooh, crazy. It's pretty much the same. That was kind of why I sent it to them to put in. It really was only like stock plugins. The only two things that were different were they only left in like 5% of the takes of the vocal. There's so many vocal takes. Like, we worked on it for days. And then the other thing was the stereo output, like master bus, was different. And it was only different because I didn't know what I was doing, because I was like 18 and my master bus had like 6 EQ bands and like 3 adaptive limiters. It was terrible. It was just a mess. Alex, how do you handle layering vocals without making it sound messy or choirish? Really, I'm a stickler for that. You know, we go vocal by vocal. We'll comp doubles. You know, Billy, to be totally honest, is a very gifted doubler. She can really just like drop them. She can lay them down. One of the other things is I'll like cut out, like if there's like 10 vocals, like I'll cut out like 9 of their like consonants, right? If they all say like okay, like I'll leave the O vowel and the A vowel, and I'll like chop the K, so it's just like one instead of like to make it more even. I'll do that on like the end of words too, right? Like if there's a million S's, like I just want it to sound like one S, so I'll just leave one S in. Gabby, how do you make your sub basses? What plugins do you usually use to sculpt them? To be honest, because I think it's the most helpful answer, the Logic built-in synths have great sub engines, and they're very effective. There's a plugin called Trillion by Spectrasonics. I found out about it because there's a sound in Novocaine by Frank Ocean. It goes, "Girl, I can't feel my face. Whoop. What are we smoking anyway? Whoop." And I just thought it was the coolest little, like, sounds like a burp or something. And I was like, that's sick. And I Googled what it was, and someone was like, I think it's on Trillion. And so I bought Trillion on the spot, but it's a little expensive. It's like $300. But that being said, it's amazing. And like almost every bass I ever use is a Trillion bass. Melanie, what's the most unusual thing you've done as a producer? I love that question. I wish I had a better answer for you. the Daniel, how do you harmonize vocals without losing the main melody? This is something I admire so much of you and Billy, and I feel you guys dominate that. Mixing, mostly mixing. The main melody has to be the authority in the mix. Let's see what else we've got. Thank you guys so much for all these great questions, by the way. You're making if I were just like sitting here talking, it'd be so boring. But the fact that you guys have such good questions is awesome. Bronca, question. Hey, Finneas, I'm 17 years old and I'm from Portugal. Are production schools worth it? Thank you very much. They're not. Sorry. My thing this year is like fighting with Berkeley College undergrads, I guess. And I don't mean to. Like, my friend Ash is a Berkeley grad. Our tour manager Brian is a Berkeley grad. Some of my best friends went to Berkeley, so I'm not prejudiced against Berkeley grads. I'm prejudiced against music schools charging a lot of money to teach you a field that guarantees you no money. It's just very different than medical school. If you go get a doctorate, probably make a lot of money on it. And if you have a degree from Berkeley or Musicians Institute, there's no guarantee you'll ever make money. The dudes that get degrees from those places are like the engineer at a studio or the intern or something. Anyway, and I just don't think people should be in debt. I think student loans are, bullshit. I got in some argument with some very kind girl on Twitter who was like, imagine being so privileged that you can put people down for getting a college degree. And I was like, I couldn't afford to go to college. I didn't have the money. And she was like, I couldn't afford to go to college either. I'm $200,000 in debt. And I was like, you just played yourself. I was like, that's the point. Bridget Conway, Finneas, I like your shirt. Question: has anyone from The Office acknowledged my strange addiction? I've been binging the show over quarantine. I love it. It's a great show. I think pretty much all of them have. The only dude from The Office that I'm semi close with is Rainn Wilson. Well, Rainn and BJ Novak are friends of mine, but the other ones have acknowledged it. I just don't know Steve at all. We did that John Krasinski prom thing. That was really fun. He's really nice. Finneas, you are literally visiting my college in March for a music industry masterclass. Sure I am. Sure it'll be safe to visit your college in March. Sure it will be. Marty from Ireland here. You're an amazing balance in your vocal mixes. So in terms of EQ, which frequencies do you look out for the most? BVs and mains. Thanks. I keep my EQ shit pretty flat. The microphone I've switched to is this Telefunken 251. It's a little bit brighter. Feels a little glassier. So that kind of takes care of that. I just mainly cut out ghost low frequencies. It's kind of about it. Sometimes I'll create summing track stacks of BVs, and I'll carve out a little bit of mid or something to leave room for the lead. Toss it out podcast. Should the vocals be louder than the instrumental or vice versa? Not sure if this question makes sense. It does make sense, but they have to exist together. You'll know based on the other one. The vocal, it's a relativity game, right? You can't have only the vocals on and turn them up and be like, that's the perfect volume, or do the same thing with drum. You have to have both on and be like, how do they sound in relativity to each other, in relation to each other? At what stage do you commit to audio tracks or keep MIDI regions until you send them to someone else? Greetings from London, Oleg. So I'm super excited about that question. To explain to anyone who doesn't know what they're talking about, if I play my Nord and I am playing it like through like, USB, comes in as MIDI data. It's like recording each key. And then if I'm playing it through like a plugin of a synth engine, like Omnisphere or a built-in Logic plugin or an Arturia plugin, it's all, none of it like exists. It's just data of the keys, and then it goes into the plugin, and the plugin takes that data of the keys and then plays it, which is totally different than like an analog synth recorded as audio through like a stereo or like a like stereo quarter inch or mono quarter inch. That's audio. I almost never commit. I almost never bounce to audio unless I'm going to process the audio in like a crazy way. So if I'm going to take a synth that I recorded as MIDI and then I want to like distort it and have it like just get destroyed, then I'll bounce it as audio, because you can destroy audio in a way that you can't quite destroy MIDI. But almost every like stem session I send to like any mixer has like a bunch of tracks that are still like technically MIDI files, but they're like, I'm bouncing them out as an audio stem when I'm sending it to a mixer. Like I don't send my mixer, because my like mixers are all like other than maybe like Alex Toomey, like mixers are all like dudes in their 40s, and so they all still use Pro Tools. And so I like I have to send it as audio, because like they're not working on Logic, so they can't take my Logic session and like open it up and mix it. Nico, Finneas, do you recommend the TLM 103? I just want to make sure it has good quality. I'm afraid it would break with the different processes. And would you make Latin music? 3-part question. I would make Latin music. I'd love to. I love Latin artists. It's not going to break, and it sounds amazing. It's like $1,000. It's amazing, amazing, amazing microphone. Did Billy's whole album on it, and the James Bond song. This is I think this is Matthias. Bro, you got to answer this, please. Don't you get carried away by producing mixing wall songwriting that eventually you forget the initial idea? What do you do to overcome it? It's a good point. That's to that extent, I do like write a lot without producing, so that probably helps take care of that. Hey Finneas, this is from Daria Musk. Hey Finneas, I adore the way you beat and tempo switch. Can you tell us how you approach that? I don't do it like all that much, but I like doing it. I love Bohemian Rhapsody. I love songs that start somewhere and go somewhere else. I think that's a great thing about music. And I feel compelled to say, as you see my exposed kneecap, that I'm just wearing shorts. I'm not just naked from the waist down. See what else. We're on the last, like we're on the home stretch. We got like 5 minutes left, so I want to really like get some good questions in. As much as I think fingers for legs or legs for fingers is a good question. Barron's 2005. Oh my god, it just went away. At what time in the producing do you stop before you think a song is overproduced? Is it Billy who says so, or do you delete the tracks when she's asleep? That's funny. We're both minimalists by nature, so very rarely do we have anything that we have to delete. But in terms of like listening to a song and seeing if it's overproduced or not, like it's overproduced if I can't tell what's going on. If I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Then it's overproduced. Mm-hmm. Emily Ross. Okay, this is like an intense question. I don't even think she maybe means it to be intense, but it's a little intense. Emily Ross, hey from the Bay Area. I was wondering, who are your favorite female producers? What can we do to support them more? It's a really good question. And like part of this is my amount of ignorance. If anyone in this chat has like a list or a couple like female producers that they're a huge fan of, that you think I might not know of, please send them my way. And to name a couple, I'm a huge fan of Wonder Girl. I think she's amazing. I really like Alex Hope. I think Alex Hope is awesome. And my friend Chelsea Cutler produces all her own stuff and is, going to be a star producer for other people too. She's like a star in her own right already, but I think when she like starts doing other people's albums, she'll be a big deal. But it's a male dominated field and I don't want it to be. So I encourage anyone in this chat who is not a man to start producing, because I don't like patriarchal fields, and I would love for there to be just as many amazing women producers as there are amazing guy producers. And listen, there I'm sure there are plenty that I'm just ignorant of. So please introduce me to some of them if I don't know. Oh yes, Elohim is really good. I'm a big fan of Elohim. Thank you for including that. And Grimes is really good. Thank you for including that. Shruti, what's your take on Harmonizer, like the one Jacob Collier uses? I'm jealous of it. I want him to give it to me. Anna's Amen. Kenny Beats. Not a woman. Sorry. Love Kenny, but not a woman. Yeah. Do you spend time warping and time stretching, or would you spend time recording everything to perfection without needing to edit? No, I warp and time stretch. It's fun. I do it mostly experimentally. I do it to like make stuff sound weird and cool. Hi, Finneas. I'm a programmer, and in programming, we always feel like we can add more stuff in our programs. Is there same problem with mixing a song? Like you don't know when the mix is complete? Yeah, maybe. Not really. I usually am like, I think it's done when it's done. You guys are all sending me Sylvia Massey as a producer. Thank you. I'm gonna check Sylvia Massey out. I'm not familiar. Toki Monster, also not familiar. Gotta check that out. Linda Perry, that's right. Linda Perry's an OG. Great hats. Her and Smokey the Bear, man. I went and peed in the middle of this, so we're gonna go like 1 or 2 more minutes past noon. Hi from Sweden. Do you have anyone else bouncing your stems when it's going to the mixing engineer? How is your approach thinking about getting the information from sends? It's the least sexy part of my life. I bounce all of my stems myself because I do it really carefully. And the only way I have found to really guarantee that they transfer right is to bounce them basically individually. I don't, export all files as audio tracks. I literally just like go through and bounce stuff. And part of that is my own torture, because I will like some bounce. I'll be like, here's all of the harmonies for this part as like one file, because I already mixed them. Yes, Imogen Heap. Imogen Heap is a legend producer. Thank you for this. I appreciate you. Legend. Imogen Heap is the shit. All right, I'm gonna do 2 more questions. I'm gonna be really careful with them. And thank you guys for your time today. I really appreciate you. Waiting for a really interesting one. Fabian, hi, Finneas. I was wondering, how do you approach using reference tracks while you're producing? They're not a part of my process at all. I never do it. Dantone music. This is my last question. On the song "All the Good Girls Go to Hell," what do you use for that stereo bass? Micro shift, doubler, or only 2 guitar bass? You also add a sub in the center. Amazing job. Thanks a lot. This is a very well thought out question. I just double tracked bass. Played the same line twice on a Fender Mustang. I'm not a very tall guy. I'm like 6 foot flat. So I look weird with a giant bass in my hand. So I just play a Mustang. And it's very subby. I really like how subby the Mustang is. And then there's also like some sub bass in the middle of that song. But yeah, just double tracked. I double track bass a lot. I like the width. I like where it sits. I think I'm gonna go throw up now. I feel very queasy. But I really appreciate you guys all being on here, and thank you for the engaging questions and for keeping me company this morning. I hope you have a healthy, happy rest of your day or night. And if it's 4 a.m. for you in Melbourne, go get some sleep. Thanks again, everybody, and thanks to Mix with the Masters for having me on today. Cheers.
Thank you so much, Finneas, and thanks everybody for joining.